Chloe wonders if they can use pressure points to knock the people out, but it doesn't work. Hello there, heroes! I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. I'm catching up here, and this time with a pretty major one. Normally, I like to save the reveal of the fact that there was a guest star for when that character enters the plot. I'm not really sure why I do that, seeing as the guest stars are announced before the session, so most of you probably already know about this before the time this video comes out especially. But this time, the guest star on this session was such a big impact that I think it has to be talked about right from the word go. Last time, Hyperforce had the big man in red, Santa Claus himself, as a guest on the show. What do you mean that was Zach from Hyper RPG? Nope, don't believe you. It was totally Santa Claus. Anyway, how could they possibly hope to top that this time around? Well, how about having the man that the show itself has called not the oldest living ranger, just the best? That is right, heroes. Jason David Frank, the man himself, was a guest on Hyperforce this time around, reprising his role as Tommy Oliver. However, which Tommy would it be? Are we headed back to Angel Grove for a look at the green or white Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Red Zeo, Red Turbo? Or maybe we'll be visiting Reefside, California in the early 2000s for a look at Dr. Tommy Oliver, the Dino Thunder Black Ranger. Let's find out by taking a look at the 9th session of Hyperforce, Day of the Pony. In yet another way that Hyperforce improves on the TV show, we don't just pretend that the holiday special was this little one-off episode so much that we even wonder if it was canon. This session starts with the Rangers standing at the North Pole outside the time ship looking at Jack. Though I guess my whole thing about I'm not going to talk about Tommy until he enters the plot was kind of a moot point anyway, because Dr. Oliver is standing directly behind Jack. The Rangers are understandably a little confused about what's going on, and we get some good old-fashioned time bending. You see, the Hyperforce Rangers, the team of 4 besides Jack, I should say, have been at the North Pole for about a day. Jack and Tommy have been looking for the Rangers for weeks now. Jack estimates that he's been looking for them for about 3 weeks, but later on, Alpha says they've been searching for the team for 7 weeks. They've been looking for the Rangers for nearly 2 months. Jack tells the other Rangers how he was making those cookies that they saw him making, but when the cookies were done, the Rangers were just gone. He and Alpha looked for them for a while, and even actually checked back in with Jen Scott in the future, touching base with her, but they didn't really get anywhere. So they decided to travel back to 2005 and Reefside to pick up Dr. Tommy Oliver to help them look. They never really establish why it is they did this. The best answer actually came from some stuff I saw people saying in the chat and on Twitter, that after the Zeo episode, A Brief Mystery of Time, it was said that Tommy had a little bit of sensitivity to disturbances in the time stream. The Rangers start excitedly telling Jack about how they helped save Christmas with Santa Claus, and his sleigh is right back there, and it's gone. Jack tells them to just get inside the time ship. It's freezing out there. They follow them back into the ship, and Chloe sniffs Tommy's hair because the girls on this team are just a little bit strange. The team then reunites with Alpha, who, if you think about it, they actually barely got to see reactivated. Alpha shows the team how the entire ship has basically become one gigantic investigation. After the Rangers disappeared, Jack was inspired to really drill in to what is going on with this evil alliance. One thing that they discovered when they checked in with Jen is that the other Time Force Rangers have been disappearing one by one. Eddie asks Tommy if this is affecting other Rangers at other points in time. He's not really sure, and Jack says that's actually what they're trying to find out. Alpha announces that the ship is primed for time travel, and as a matter of fact, they have somewhere they need to go. Tommy's home time of 2005. The ship has detected a time anomaly there, and Tommy can sense, again, there's that kind of sense there, that something is wrong with his good friend and former colleague, Anton Mercer. Chloe declares this the best day ever. I mean, first Santa Claus and now Tommy Oliver. Jack asks Tommy for any information he can give them about Anton Mercer. Marv interrupts, saying that any information he would need to know would be in the ship's historical database already. Jack accepts this and says that while the other Rangers were gone, they managed to fine-tune the ship's sensors. So now they get a few hours of warning before a time anomaly actually takes place. Tommy says that he hid Anton Mercer safely at his lab, but Alpha says the ship's sensors are saying that, like Scorpina, Anton Mercer is disappearing from history. The Rangers arrive at January 2nd, 2005 in Reefside, California, and they and Tommy teleport down to Tommy's lab. Tommy and Jack start looking around for Anton, but Marv says that maybe they should be cautious because he remembers from his history class that Anton Mercer was once a villain. Tommy explains to them all about how Anton became Megazord, but how he was then cured of that, and he's been kept at the lab for safety. However, he does not seem to be there anymore. Somebody does seem to be there, though, since around the corner they hear papers being thrown, objects crashing into other objects, and some general hysteria. The Rangers pull their blade blasters, and Tommy carefully leads them around the corner. It turns out that it's Haley, Tommy's faithful assistant, but as she rounds the corner towards them, something is very clearly wrong with her. Her hair is messed up, she has a crazed look on her face, and she's just throwing things around everywhere and screaming and acting very, very angry. She even grabs the case that holds Tommy's Dino Thunder gear and starts flinging it around the room. They try to simultaneously calm her down and at the same time get the morphing gear away from her. Eddie can't pull it off, but Chloe, using her permanent stealth bonus from Santa Claus, manages to get the job done. Vesper puts her in a bear hug to secure her, and Eddie tries a focus technique to calm her down. It works for a second, but it doesn't hold. Then a news report comes on the nearby TV. A gas has settled over Reefside, California that's making everybody go crazy. Marv calls Alpha and asks if he'd be able to make an antidote to the gas, scanning Haley with his morpher. Alpha says he's not sure he'll be able to make the antidote, but he can see from the early scans that the gas seems to lower inhibitions and bring out the angrier, darker, evil side of people. Vesper sings a soothing song to Haley, and it actually seems to bring her out of the craze. She knows who Jack is since he's been there before, and apologizes to him and Tommy, saying that they trusted her to keep Anton safe, but he went crazy from the gas too and managed to escape. Then that news report on the TV cuts out, and is replaced by the image of the Alliance leader. He says that he is looking for Dr. Anton Mercer. More specifically, Megazord. Whatever remains of Megazord is going to join him. And when that happens, all of this insanity will end. The Rangers start to piece together the Alliance's greater plan. First Scorpina, then the magic clay, now Megazord. They're building an evil army, and that's not a good thing, so they should probably get on preventing that. Marv asks Alpha to focus on the antidote, but Alpha is worried about creating anything that would permanently affect people's biology and possibly change history. Tommy asks Marv to stay with Alpha and help him with the antidote, something that doesn't actually end up happening, come to think about it. And Vesper thinks that they should morph so they don't breathe the gas in. However, Jack once again brings up the idea of escalation. But it's actually okay, because one, Tommy has gas masks, and two, the tunnels that lead up to his house will apparently also lead them closer to the situation. That part didn't really make sense. Eddie starts looking over the Black Dino Thunder morpher as they head up towards Tommy's house. Tommy says that the morpher has been de-energized, and maybe the Rangers can actually help him re-energize it so he can morph and help them out directly. Once they get to his house, he asks the Rangers to take off their shoes. You know, gotta keep the floors all nice, all that, you know, just respectful and all that stuff. Vesper is wearing mismatched socks. Chloe is wearing kitty cat socks with holes in them that she apparently borrowed from Vesper. Marv is not wearing socks at all. Stinky feet. As they walk through his house, the Hyperforce Rangers start snapping pictures with their morphers, and 2005 Tommy starts ranting a little bit about the kids these days and their super technology and blah 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 blah. They hop into his Jeep and start driving towards the city. As they travel, Eddie is looking over the Black Dino Thunder morpher, scans it with his own morpher, and asks Alpha what he thinks about it. Alpha says it looks like that he can give some of his energy to the Black Dino gem and try to power it up a bit. He places the gem on his morpher and does so, and while it's close, it doesn't seem to quite be enough. So the other Rangers offer their morphers as well, and it powers up the Dino Gem enough for one more battle. They reach Haley's Cyber Cafe, where the gas seems to be building up and even possibly emanating from. They put on the gas masks, and as they head towards the building, they see people driving like fools, fighting each other, destroying property, etc., etc. Alpha says there's been no progress on an antidote just yet. Chloe wonders if they can use pressure points to knock these people out, but it doesn't seem to work. So they contemplate just kind of leaving them to their own devices and going to solve the main problem. However, these people are hurting each other, so as Power Rangers, they have to intervene. Vesper's song worked on Haley, so the Rangers decide to turn Tommy's radio into an amplifier and have her sing another song to all the people. They look over when they hear the song and suddenly become very confused and embarrassed about whatever it was they were just doing. Tommy uses his invisibility power to slip past the people and investigate near the cafe, while Marv distracts them all by yelling about the new Power Rangers band and the free show we're having down a few blocks down that way with free smoothies, free concert, free smoothies, down there. The people are amazed and head down, just down. Behind the cafe, a group of putties appear. Yes, a group of putties. I was a little confused about why this would be the case at first, instead of Tyrannodrones or Stixoids, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. The Stixoids were kind of all but a one-time thing, and Tommy and Anton made the Tyrannodrones. That with both of them on the side of goodness, there would be no reason for them to create more. On the other hand, Volcanos now has the magic clay, so of course he can create putties. The putties are now basically the foot soldiers of the Alliance, which, to be honest, is a rather convenient bit of nostalgia, since, for one, they're really popular with the Twitch chat with the whole... I mean, heck, even JDF referenced that during this session. Marv strikes at two putties from the shadows before they see them, and he takes them both out. 4 more of the putties do see them, though, and out from behind them walks a monster. It's an upright standing pony with a big green belly and a flower blooming right out of its mouth. This is Perfume Pony, and matching the monster theme of Dino Thunder, a combination of 3 different things in the Geno randomizer, it seems to be a combination of a pony, a flower, and a perfume bottle. And it is also the source of the gas. He sprays the Rangers with more of the gas, and Eddie and Vesper start to feel impacted by it. And you could really just tell that Andre was thrilled to have an opportunity to actually do the whole evil Ranger thing himself, going after Marv and kicking his Blade Blaster away. Marv tries singing Vesper's song, and it does work for a second, but unfortunately he can't sing, so it ultimately fails. He and Chloe morph. While Tommy takes on the putties, doing a spinning back fist and roundhouse kick move that takes out 3 of them. Jack morphs.
Hyperforce! Yellow! Ready! Power up!
and uses his Ram Rush attack to blast the last putty into dust. He calls out to Eddie, but Eddie says he's tired of taking orders from Jack, who's always treating them like kids. Eddie tries to jump on Jack's back, but he ultimately misses and lands on the ground, hitting his head on the pavement, and this clears his head from the gas. He asks Chloe what's going on, and Chloe takes this opportunity to punch Vesper right in the forehead, hitting her in that third eye and clearing her head as well. In something that clearly seems to have been rehearsed beforehand but was still really cute, Eddie and Vesper do their Eddie and Vesper, Vesper and Eddie, Ranger buds forever. It's morphin' time!
Hyperforce! Blue! Ready! Power up!
Hyperforce! Black! Ready! Power up!
Vesper's pun button seems to get stuck on the horse setting until she just throws her disc at the monster. However, she misses, and the monster takes the opportunity to grab her by the face with the flower and beat her around a bit for 10 damage. Chloe responds with a Hurricane Whirlwind that only does 3 damage, but does manage to get Vesper free. Jack asks Tommy if the airflow on the gas mask can be reversed, forcing the monster to breathe in its own gas. Maybe so, but let's not worry about that right now. Right now, it's time for Tommy to show these Rangers that he may be old, but he can still get it done.
Dino Thunder! Power up! Brachial power!
Tommy attacks the monster using an Ultra and rolling 4 dice. Oh, is that something I forgot to mention? Tommy basically has the same power as Santa did, rolling 1 extra d6 in each phase. 2 dice unmorphed, 3 dice morphed, 4 dice in a Zord, and 5 dice as the primary pilot of a Megazord. The interesting thing is, Malika pointed out that this special ability was because Tommy was a teacher. However, his attack misses, though he does manage to dodge the pony's counter. Eddie says it's time to make this monster black and blue. Oh, I mean with Tommy, though, not with Vesper. And actually, this is another one of those cases, like I said last time, this just happens every now and then, where Malika either didn't exactly hear right the attack the Ranger described, or just didn't remember what they had said. Eddie described how he planned to use his Oceanus Trident, extending it and stabbing it into the monster, and then Tommy would jump off that as a platform and attack. So, after Eddie's roll succeeds, Malika describes how Eddie spun his trident, creating a beam that hit the monster, and then Tommy just kind of jumped off of nothing and attacked alongside Eddie, doing his classic Kia! I mean, hey, whatever the attack was, it hit for 15 damage. Jack jumps in, basically deciding to let Malika answer the question that he asked Tommy, that Tommy never answered, about the gas masks, by just doing it. He jumps at the monster and shoves a gas mask onto his face, and then rolls for the action. It succeeds. The monster gets a big ol' whiff of his own gas, collapses, and then grows. Whoops! So that makes it Zord time. But if you think about it, the Brachiozord is not going to be a whole lot of help here. It's big and stompy, sure, but it's also really slow and doesn't seem to have any offensive capabilities. Unless those other Dino Thunder Zords are inside, which I highly doubt, it's not really going to be a whole lot of help. So Tommy says there's another Zord combo that he can pilot, that he piloted a couple of times, a few times, the Mezzodon Megazord. But where did that come from? Weren't all of the Zords destroyed at the end of Dino Thunder? Well, even an incredibly creative GM like Malika has to give us a bit of a hand-waved, somehow it just happened every once in a while, just basically saying that those Zords happened to reform when Tommy's Black Dino Gem was re-energized. Not the biggest deal in the world. Anyway, Malika points out that the Mezzodon Megazord was only ever piloted by as many as 3 Rangers, meaning Tommy needs to pick 2 of these 5 to come along with him. So, which 2 did he pick? Find out after this break.
Dino Thunder! Power up!
5 minutes for the viewing audience, merely a moment's wait for you. While Eddie's arm nearly comes off, of course, raising his hand, Chloe's just as high. Tommy picks Vesper for her technical knowledge, and Marv because he feels like he's been giving him a bit of a hard time. Marv once again asks a Power Ranger, or semi-historical holiday figure I suppose, if he can scan their technology. Tommy is the first one to be absolutely cool with it. The giant pony monster sprays a new cloud of gas over Reefside, basically reinfecting everybody that they had previously calmed down. Chloe grabs a little boy who's kicking and punching at her, and Jack wonders if they can use their badges to place these people into stasis to keep them safe. They try it and it works, basically freezing them like mutants and then placing them in a pocket dimension inside the morpher. Tommy has the Mezzodon Megazord pull off a handspring to scorpion kick move. This works, bending the monster back and cutting off the gas. Vesper actually had interfaced with the Megazord and added some power to it in order to help it work, which actually allowed Jason to re-roll one of his dice, changing it from a failure to a success, so good work there. Down on the ground, Eddie wonders about how close Vesper is to Dr. Oliver, but then a lanky young man and an angry dog come running out of the cafe, all gas mad and crazy. So the Rangers subdue them and add them to the people inside the morpher. Vesper makes yet another horse pun at the monster. The monster doesn't hear her, and that's her turn. Tommy says that he can have the Mezzodon Megazord put the monster in a figure 4 chokehold, holding it in place while the other Rangers come up with a plan. Marv takes this opportunity from way up high in the Megazord to scan the city for Anton Mercer, but isn't detecting anything. He calls Alpha for additional help, but Alpha has some slightly more important news to share. He has got an antidote ready to go. The Mezzodon Megazord successfully chokeholds the monster, which actually holds it out of action for an entire turn. Marv asks if Alpha can send the antidote to the Mezzodon Megazord. Alpha says he can't really interface with the Mezzodon Megazord, but, you know, the Hyperzords are sitting here ready to go. The Rangers seem to be under the impression that the Hyperzords needed to recharge, perhaps as long as an entire episode. They just didn't seem to feel like they had access to them, but they did. Jack calls down his Ramzord and fires this barrage of missiles at the monster's stomach, but it manages to wiggle around and avoid them. Marv decides to get really fancy, jumping out of the Mezzodon Megazord, hitting the monster as his Zord claws at it, and then landing inside the Zord. And this hits for 12 damage. Marv starts to ask Chloe to take the antidote up into the sky, but she's already way ahead of him on that. Though she wonders if they should release the people in stasis before they release the antidote. But Alpha cuts in and says if they give him some time, maybe about 2 turns time, he'll be able to make enough to cure the people in stasis and the rest of Reefside as well. So Chloe uses her Phoenix Zord to do a spiraling attack on the monster and then fires Phoenix Feathers at it, which opens up some petals on the flower. Vesper gets some parting advice from Dr. O, which was mainly to focus her attention, and then leaps down to her own Cerberus Zord, which greets her like an adorable little 3-headed puppy. It was actually really cute. She uses her tail mace attack to hit the monster right in the stomach, which opens up some more of the petals. With 5 of 6 petals lowered, Eddie decides to play She Loves Me Not, using Serpent Strikes to pluck petals off of the monster. With 5 petals down, he lands on She Loves Me, and decides to stop right there. That last petal that hasn't come down yet, we don't need to worry about that. That's fine. Since Tommy is piloting the Mezzodon Megazord using his Brachiostaff, he uses his Earth Orb Strike to open up that last petal on the monster. Except this attack does a lot more than that. It actually cracks open the ground beneath the monster, which opens up and swallows the monster and then seals up above him. So, that's done. Marv thinks they need to get to finding Anton Mercer, but Alpha calls to remind him, you still have civilians to save. The Rangers, of course, use teamwork to save the day as Chloe spreads some of the antidote from the sky, Eddie sprays some of it out with a water attack from his Zord, and Tommy uses a wind attack to spread it all around Reefside. Jack releases the people from stasis, and pink glittery gas settles on all of them, and they are saved. At this point, Tommy gets a phone call from the one person that they've been looking for, Anton Mercer. He says he's hiding back at his office and lab at Anton Mercer Industries, and he's been gravely injured. But then suddenly the voice changes and says everything's fine, but I really need to see you and the other Rangers, Tommy. After deciding that traveling there in their Zords would probably be more trouble than it's worth, they teleport to Anton Mercer Industries. Anton Mercer comes stumbling out, clearly seriously injured, but he's immediately surrounded by putties. The Rangers transfer a little more of their power to Tommy, allowing him to go invisible again. They hold each of the putties in place as Tommy strikes them from invisibility and takes them all out right away. Do you heroes remember how fun and magical last session was? It was Christmas! We had Santa Claus and big fireplaces and cookies and magic and little tiny elves, and it was just so cute. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Now we have Anton Mercer bleeding to death through a gaping wound in his stomach. Eddie remembers the healing charge function, seeing as it basically saved his own life. However, he's one energy short of activating it. Of course, each of the other Rangers volunteers to fill in the gap, but all of them are sitting at one energy. So anybody who uses this with Eddie is going to be demorphed. I wonder if there's anybody sitting around here that has a bunch of energy that could make this work. How about Dr. Oliver, who's sitting at 7 energy? Eddie transfers the ability to Tommy's morpher, and Tommy uses the power to save Anton. The Rangers go helmetless and start introducing themselves as friends of Tommy's, but then Anton starts shaking, rocking back and forth, and slowly beginning to transform back into Megazord. He tries to fight it, and basically as they bounce back and forth, we hear the two of them tell pretty much the same story. The Alliance leader came, used the gas from the Perfume Pony to reinstate the Megazord side of Mercer, and then tried to recruit him to join the Alliance. However, Anton Mercer is good now, and as it turns out, as you might remember, Megazord only cares about a future for dinosaurs, not humans. So his plans don't mesh with the Alliance leader's plans, and thus he shot him down. Chloe still has a sample of the antidote gas that they used to cure the people in Reefside, and she throws it at Mercergog. See, Mercer, can you see what I did? Anyway, to try and help him out. While they're still dealing with Megazord, they try to reason with him for some more information by explaining that he and the Alliance leader do not have similar goals at all, like he said. Megazord wants a future strictly for dinosaurs and those with dinosaur DNA. The Alliance, they may not even want a future at all for humans or dinosaurs. This gets Megazord to open up a little bit more, and he drops an absolute bomb. He tells them that the Alliance leader said that their goal is to bring back the big-headed wizard in the glass tube. That's right, heroes. The Alliance leader's goal is to bring back Zordon. Why? I actually have a theory about this, but let's wrap up the session first. The antidote begins to work, and Megazord starts getting driven back, reverting him to Anton Mercer, who explains that the Alliance leader wanted Megazord to help him change history in some way, which is another major clue. Alpha then calls and says that there's a disturbance on the other side of Reefside. The Hyperforce Rangers wonder how they should split up their team to deal with this, but Alpha and Jack both tell them that splitting up the team at all is a bad idea right now. Tommy agrees with them, saying that he can stay with Anton and help him while they go check out the situation as a team. Besides, it turns out that now's actually a really good time for Tommy to bow out. As Marv downloads communication protocols to Tommy's morpher, he senses that the Black Dino Gem is back to a very low energy reading. Tommy admits that he felt his powers failing throughout their last battle, which is a feeling that he's unfortunately rather familiar with, and he doesn't think that he's strong enough to fight anymore. But this is okay. Now he can stay with Anton and help him with something else that he's quite familiar with, fighting the evil inside himself, while they go and take care of the other situation as a team. He says rather unique goodbyes to each of the Rangers, as the session ends. So before we get to my thoughts on this session overall, that Zordon theory that I mentioned, why in the world would the Alliance leader want to bring back Zordon, basically the leading force of goodness in the Power Rangers universe? Well, first, think about how Anton Mercer said that the leader wanted Megazord to help him change history. Then think back to Countdown to Destruction. It was Zordon's death that turned the tide of that battle. If the Alliance leader were to take an army of evil creatures from across time back to Countdown to Destruction, they could prevent Zordon's death at Andros' saber, and by doing that, prevent the destruction of the United Alliance of Evil. Okay, that bit of super fanboy geekiness out of the way, let's get to the session itself. This was actually the most normal feeling session to feature a guest star so far. I will say it didn't seem like JDF was always 100% comfortable in the role-playing world, but as far as his own character, he slipped right back into Dr. Tommy Oliver, my favorite Tommy, you might recall, very, very well, and this session had just the feel of an episode of Dino Thunder. There was just a little bit of hand-waving, such as how they got the Mezzodon Megazord back, especially since I'm pretty sure at least one of those Zords involved the Triassic powers, which were not revived. But it wasn't anything that was unbearable, and we got continued character growth, like Marv continuing to grow as a leader, and Eddie still concerned about and still kind of crushing on Vesper. Jack's 1 week absence was worked into the plot incredibly well, and they actually even did something that was one of my few criticisms against Time Force, and had a situation where time scales between characters in a time travel story were not the same. So, whether or not Santa counted last week as a guest episode, it is now official. Day of the Pony gets Hyperforce's first guest session 5 out of 5. That's going to do it for another Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. Thank you folks so much as always for watching, and especially thank you for your patience. I know I haven't been the best as far as getting videos out. I feel kind of guilty about that. When I'm in the Twitch chat during the sessions, I'll see people, tell me, I love your reviews, I love your videos. Can't wait to see more, and I always feel really great about that as a content creator, but then I feel kind of guilty that I'm not doing the best job of getting the videos out on a regular basis. I'm going to work harder on that, and just look forward to that, and I appreciate your support, and that you love my videos. It really makes me feel good to hear that, so thank you so much. Make sure to like the video by clicking the like button right down below. In the comments, let me know what you thought of this review and of this session overall. Though I will say, and I'm doing this as a second take because I kind of let it get away from me in terms of words, I'll try to keep this short. I realize that JDF is a polarizing figure in the fandom. Popular people in any kind of fandom usually are in one way or another. I know some people like JDF, some people really don't like JDF. Try not to get in any fan battles down in the comments. I will allow you guys to talk about how you could have wished it was someone else on Dino Thunder that got this opportunity, whether you feel JDF handled this opportunity well or not. But just remember, it's like Ranger Liz said, who's another Power Rangers YouTuber, does a weekly Power Rangers news show, and also does little quick reviews of Hyperforce. If you're not watching her, you should be. I'm telling you this right now. She pointed out how the ratings, which is just how many people were watching the session live, were some of the highest that the Hyperforce has seen since they began, since the first episode. So JDF was good for the show. JDF brought in a lot of his fans that weren't watching Hyperforce, and now more of those people might be watching Hyperforce. So however you feel about JDF, whether you like him or you don't like him, if you love Hyperforce, it was a great idea to have him on, and it can only do great things for the show. So just, don't start any fan wars. Just keep it nice and clean down in the comments and let me know what you thought. Subscribe to the channel to see all of my videos, and make sure you ring the bell, get your notifications set up so you can get notified of whenever I post brand new videos like this Power Rangers Hyperforce session review. And if you would like to toss a little financial support my way, though you're under no obligation to do so, you can head to digitaltipjar.com/orangerangervid. Toss me whatever little bit of financial support in my tip jar you'd like, and I would greatly appreciate it. As you can hear, my voice is kind of going out after being sick and doing 2 videos in a row, so this is a good place to wrap it up anyway. So I will say until next time, heroes, may the power protect you, and go Hyperforce. The giant pony monster sprays a new cloud of gas over Reefside, reinfecting everyone that the Rangers had previously calmed down. They try it and it works, basically freezing the farts, holding it in place while the Rangers come up with a plan. Marv takes this let's do it again. Which greets her like an adorable little three-headed puppy. Actually, it was really cute, the sequence there. Yeah. Of course, all the other Rangers,